And gentlemen, first of all, what a great view from the legendary DLD stage once more. Dear Steffi Czerny, dear DLD family, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me once more. It's always a big pleasure. It's kind of a homecoming for me to have the honor to speak in front of that great DLD family. So allow me to first of all say in the name of the Bavarian State Government and personally, welcome back home, DLD family. Welcome at the Heimat of High Tech. Welcome at one of the digital powerhouses of Europe. Welcome in our capital here in Munich, ladies and gentlemen. We are proud to have you here once more. Second thing I want to say before I start into my little keynote is thank you and kudos, and I'm quite sure that I'm saying this in the name of you all. Kudos to you, dear Steffi Czerny, because you are such an amazing personality. You are such a great ambassador for the Digital Bavaria. It's really no coincidence that I had the honor to hand out one of the most important awards of my ministry to you some time ago. What I want to say is that we are really, really proud to have you as a Bavarian ambassador for digitalization and future technologies in the whole world. We are proud of you. A big applause for Steffi Czerny. Yes, and I also do not want to put my things onto the delay we already have, so I will keep it as short as it's possible, but I want to talk about, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, our vision, the vision of the Bavarian State Government in common and of me as the one who is responsible for the future technologies and special. And this vision, this mission means that we want Bavaria to be Heimat of High Tech. We want to develop this country consequently to a top hub for the future technologies in the heart of Europe. And this is mainly because of two reasons. The first reason for that has a lot to do with the motto of this year's DLD, with this "It's gonna be wild" theme, because my opinion is that it has already gone wild out there in the world. All of you know that there is this big geopolitical crisis. We in Bavaria and Germany and Europe are embedded somewhere in between Putin in the east and Trump in the west. So there is a lot to do having a look at the geopolitical situation. But there is not only this geopolitical Zeitenwende, there is also a second big revolution of our time. And this is, I'm deeply convinced about that, the big tech revolution of our time. This is the way in which AI, quantum computing, cloud computing, and all that stuff will, over the next years, definitely change our way of living, change our way of working, change almost everything in the world. And yes, this will also redistribute the global wealth, deeply convinced about that. And we as Bavaria, we are of the opinion that we do not only want to stand at the sideline with big eyes and watch actors from US or actors from China or Asia redistributing the global wealth of the future amongst each other. We want our share of that. We want to be at the top of that movement. This is the first reason for this mission to be Heimat of High Tech, this mission to become a top hub for future technologies. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the second reason for that is that we are bringing very special requirements into this big tech revolution, which is the industrial revolution of our times, as Bavaria, as Germany, as almost every European nation state. What do I mean by that? Well, we here in Germany, we are in danger to become the sick man of Europe once more in an economically sense. The sick old man, to be honest, having a look at the demography of this country. And yes, we are a country with high wages, within the highest wages in the whole world. We are a country with high energy prices. We are a country in a dramatic demographic situation. Over the next 10 years, 15 million people will retire from work, the so-called baby boomer generation. And we are a nation with our natural resources. Our main resource is what's happening between the ears of the people who are living there. Our central resource is brain. And that's why we do not have a chance to bring the wealth of this country into the future by doing something like cheap mass production. Our only chance, if the future shall be good, I'm deeply convinced about that, is to be at the forefront of high tech, at the forefront of innovation, at the forefront of future technologies. And this is the main reason for this vision to make Bavaria a top hub for the future technologies in the heart of Europe. And yes, we are really doing a lot to make that happen, to help to let this vision become a realistic scenario here in Bavaria. I think some of you might know that we have invested almost 7 billion euros into future technologies over the last years. We brought 1,000 new professorships into this country, 134 only for AI, 12,000 new STEM study places. We built up an own innovation accelerator, just a Bavarian one, the only one in Europe to do so. We have an own AI transfer program for our SMEs all over the country. We built up a new venture capital fund with 1 billion in it to help our startups to scale up here and not to have to go to Asia or USA to scale up. So yes, there is really a lot happening at the moment, and the good news is that this is working, that this mission is becoming reality at the moment. So if you have a look at the Global Tech Ecosystem Index, you can see that we are under the top 20 of the world nowadays. Before little metropolitan regions like Beijing or Seattle, you can find Bavaria. We're really proud of that. We are the #1 talking about startups in Germany. Every second euro that has been invested into startups was invested in Bavaria over the last year. And if you have a look at what's happening in an industrial scale, or talking about which companies are coming to Bavaria, I'm really proud having a look back to the year 2025, because I can tell you that Google, that Microsoft, that AWS, that Apple are investing billions of euros here at the ESA at the moment, and that we were successful by bringing Anthropic, bringing OpenAI, bringing NVIDIA Telecom here to Munich. So yes, we are kind of the digital powerhouse in Europe so far, and this is something that hasn't fallen from the sky. This is something that we made by this clear vision that we want to be a top hub for the future technologies in the heart of Europe. But ladies and gentlemen, let me not do a speech like you are used to listening to Bavarian politicians. What I mean by that is that I do not only want to tell you what's already good here in this country. Yes, we are good, and yes, I'm proud of that, but I'm deeply convinced that there is a way to go if we want to be competitive at a global scale. So allow me to share 3 thoughts with you, of which I'm of the opinion that those are categories in which we can become even better over the next years. And I want to invite you to work on that with us, with the state government, with the Bavarian industry, and with the startup and the tech ecosystem in our country over the next years. First thing I want to talk about is, I'm deeply convinced, ladies and gentlemen, we do need more venture capital. We do need more growth capital. If we want to get out of the actual economic crisis, then we definitely have to understand that it will not be enough to slow down the recession of all economy. And don't get me wrong, I think we should do a lot to slow down the recession of all economy. This is important, but we shouldn't think that slowing down a recession brings us new growth. If we want to see new growth, we need new ideas and new markets, and we have to be prepared to invest in those new ideas and new markets. That's what we definitely need, and this cannot only be done by politics alone or by the public sector. I think we have to work together on that. Those who have the money, beginning from the family office up to the big industry in this country, and yes, we have to put our pen on that from politics as well, first point. Second point, I'm deeply convinced, ladies and gentlemen, we need less rules in Europe, and we need homogenized rules all over this continent. The second thing is even more important than the first thing. What do I mean by that? Well, allow me to do kind of an automotive example. I already talked about that at the IAA in Munich, another important conference for us here as the Bavarian state government. There I just asked the question, talking to automotive guys, well, we here in Bavaria, we are a proud automotive country. We have the Audis and the BMWs. How did we get there? The answer is, in first instance, someone had to invent the car. This was Carl Benz at the end of the 19th century. And then I asked, what happened then? And the truth is, to be honest, then, first of all, nothing happened. We have invented the car, and then we built cars, and we've sold cars for more than 20 years. It took us 20 years before we had the first speed limits, the first stop signs. It took us even 40 years until we had the first typical German Straßenverkehrsordnung. I'm afraid that we are doing it completely the other way around, talking about future technology and AI at the moment here in Europe. We do already have 100+ rules for regulating the digital space in Europe. All over Europe are stop signs. All over Europe, we have all these Straßenverkehrsordnungstopics, and then we wonder, well, the car of the future is invited in Asia or USA. This is a problem. And last and third point, because Steffi is already standing next to me, I think that means we have to come to an end. My last point is, I'm deeply convinced, ladies and gentlemen, we need something like a digital sovereignty on a European level. I'm convinced that there must be a lessons learned from our dependencies on cheap gas from Russia, which brought us the war back to Europe. I don't want to get into the same situation talking about future technologies in the future. Don't get me wrong, that does not mean self-sufficiency, but that does mean independence. That does mean that those who are elected, democratically elected, are those who have to do the decisions afterwards, and not some tech guys around the president who are doing that. Because when we are in a situation in which those who decide are not elected, and the elected guys do not have something to decide, we have a problem with democracy, and we shouldn't get into this problem. You can see in USA what's happening there. Let me end, Steffi, having a look at the clock, with a kind of call to action, if you allow me. I wanted to show you what we have to do to create kind of a new, and that's what our country needs in my eyes, kind of a new economic miracle, so to say. And of course, if we want to see a new economic miracle in this country, there is a lot of housework to do, homework to do for politics. We talked about some points, we would have to talk about energy prices and much more now, but I think there is one thing that is even more important than every political thing and every investment debate and all that. If we want to see, I'm deeply convinced about that, a new economic miracle in this country, what we need is, again, kind of a economic miracle spirit, a new mentality. We have to get out of this depression, which is all over Europe, beginning from the pandemics, with the war in the heart of Europe, with the energy crisis. If we want the future to be good, then we have to be future optimistic again. Then we have to say goodbye to all this German angst, and we have to get back to kind of a new culture of courage. Then we have to take the things into our hands. Then we have to transform all this Wutbürger out there into Mutbürger. Because the future isn't defined. It will not fall from the sky, and it's not clear that it will be bad. The future will be as we design the future. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, at the time of the last economic miracle in this country, conditions were much worse than today. That was the time after World War II. So the land was down. And there were people who have been future optimistic and who brought new wealth into this country. And this mentality is what we need out of the depression into a new future optimistic mindset if we want to see a new economic miracle, a AI miracle in the year 2026. This is what I wanted to say to this big audience of the DLD. So let's say goodbye to this new Bavarian culture of me, me, me. And let's go, Steffi, a bit back to mir sein mir, a bit back to see that we are a great country with great people, a great industry and great research, and how the future will be depends on us. Let's design a good future. Let's go wild together. Thank you for working on that together, and have a great time at the DLD here in Munich. We are proud to have you here.